Hey, yo, what it do? It's Kedz and Canuck, SuperFlex Fantasy Football Show coming at you. Another episode. It's week 5. Sorry, it's post week 5. We're rolling into week 6. Things were pretty crazy. I was watching a whole bunch of football, including Canadian University football this weekend. Big shout out to my son. Happy birthday, Styles Lepage. And big ups to the Calgary Dinos on a win, well deserved. Outside of that, let's get back to the real deal. The NFL was pretty nuts this week. King of Pop should be with us shortly, but everything was pretty crazy. My guy, the dude's hanging out with us, producer dude. What did you think about this week in fantasy football, aka the NFL?
It was a pretty good weekend of football. I love my weekends this time of year. It's the most wonderful time of the year, the most glorious time of the year. But I'll tell you what, my jaw's a little sore. You know, I got punched right in the face by the King of Pop this week. So I ain't feeling too happy about that. And I lost in the paid league I paid in. Both were down by 10. So, you know, I ate those, but I'm a little sore.
Well, man, I'm glad he's not here to actually accept any of that, those kudos, because he also beat.
He'll be talking his ish soon. He'll be in here.
That's terrible. He beat me last week too. This is garbage. But the reality is, I won in all my leagues this week, which is pretty nuts. My squads really overperformed, and in one of my leagues, I went running back heavy. Let me see if I can pull up my other league. One of my leagues, I went real running back heavy, and unfortunately wound up with absolutely nothing by way of wide receivers. I think I have Malik Neighbors alone on that team. Great wide receiver, but I really don't have much depth. By way of depth, I had Alex Pierce. I was able to snag. Who was I able to snag off the waiver wire? Oh yeah, Darius Slayton. Snagged him at the very last second off the waiver wire and snuck him into 2 of my leagues. And my goodness, what kind of output was that worth this weekend? Like Alex Pierce this weekend, out of nowhere, all kinds of good. 30 plus fantasy football points, kinds of good. Same thing for Darius Slayton in a situation where Malik Neighbors was hurt. So like I was telling you, Malik Neighbors was on that squad. He's sitting on the bench because he's hurt. What do? You go get the other guy who happens to be pretty square. Like I've rostered Darius Slayton in the past, and he can produce when Daniel Jones is having a solid outing. And unfortunately, that's a shaky situation in its own. But this week, man, hey, like Darius Slayton, again, 30 plus fantasy football points this week. I was, anyways, just one of them weeks of fantasy football. I'm not sure if either one of these characters will repeat this type of output. Let's be real. Let's be real about that. But one of those weeks in fantasy football where just some craziness went down. Man, let's get into some of that, man. Where we at? Boom. All right. Courtesy of our guys at Sleeper. Sleeper always holds us down.
Big shout out to Sleeper.
Big shout outs to Sleeper. I'm going to take a peek at some of these highlights, these trends. But before we do, just want to rub it in on my guy Black Rain, because Black Rain, wow. Alex Pierce, Darius Slayton. Oh yeah, that team. Yeah. Gabriel Davis, by all means. I don't know what's going on with Jacksonville Jaguars, but
they stink. You know, they've always stunk.
I know.
I never understood why people would overdraft their players and just overproject their win and losses every season. I just don't get it. What have they done to prove it, number one, especially this current iteration? Just because they beat the Chargers in a playoff game, a Brandon Staley-led Chargers playoff game, congratulations. That's not doing much. Especially, and not forget, NFL's a what have you done for me lately league. What in the world have they done lately? absolutely nothing. Since that playoff win, they've done absolutely nothing but overpay tall Kirk Cousins. That's about it.
So what you're saying is they're about to jump on a plane and fly overseas to do nothing against our Chicago Bears?
Oh, it's going to be a bloodbath. This is the one and only time I'm going to overly project the Bears to win a game this season. That's just because I hate Jacksonville.
You mean last week wasn't that time?
Nope. I honestly thought Andy Dalton was going to put on his greatest hits against us. I really did. Or against them, not us. I'm not on the team. But
I'm with you. It's funny you say that because I definitely thought the Panthers were going to be a cakewalk for the Bears. Flipping over to Jacksonville, I thought that the team that they'd put around Trevor Lawrence at this point was going to start to trend upwards by this point in the season, and it doesn't really look like that's what's happening. Although we had a good week this week in fantasy football. We'll get into
positive that. You can give out of Jacksonville's offense is that Trevor Lawrence finally has a number one receiver in the guy they drafted, Brian Thomas, I believe his name is.
You're darn straight, yeah.
So there's that. You know, that's a positive for them. I'll give them that.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing that was
Brian Thomas Jr.
holding back
definitely
Trevor Lawrence was not having a real wide receiver one. Now he's got one. You know, like I kind of want to see them, you know, do some more stuff. You know, before I shouldn't crown them as trash completely. They can turn around and do some stuff because Trevor Lawrence is capable of it. But again, what have you done for me lately?
Well, here's what he's done for fantasy football. We're going to sort of get into just a little bit since we're talking Jacksonville, right? So let's talk about Tank Bigsby.
Get into the meat and potatoes of this,
right? So Tank Bigsby came out of the woodwork here, you know, due to a little bit of injury injury to the Jaguars backfield. End of the day, Tank Bigsby is not extremely rostered. He's 34% rostered out there. He may be available in your fantasy football league. As you can see, he's actually available in the SuperFlex league, which is terrible. I shouldn't be, you know what I mean? Mo Fugler, shout out to you.
Can it show if anyone's ever drafted him and dropped him?
Hey, I'm not sure. No, I'm not sure if I can get that kind of history here, but in any event, 34% rostered, available relatively wide, started in only 10% of leagues last week, put up 41 fantasy football points last week. What's up?
Time out. Number one, you said Tank Bigsby came out of the woodworks. Well, the woodworks is right here on Ked's SuperFlex show. I'm the woodworks. I told you guys, go pick him up. Told you. It's going to be some changes told you guys there's going to be some changes down there. And it looked like the running back was probably the first place that they would look, man. They just wasn't getting production. And for what, Nick, you tell me if I'm BSing or not. For like third or fourth week in a row, I picked guys that were going to come out here and get you numbers. It was Andy Dalton. It was what's the quarterback in Minnesota? I told you he was going to put up nice numbers with
Darnold,
coordinator. And so I'm just saying, man, might want to listen to the Nomad, the king of pop, man. Just saying.
You know, you do have an eye sometimes. You know, people definitely are taking a good old nap on it. It's time they wake up a little bit.
Well, if you got such an eye, this brother probably wouldn't be sitting on the waiver wire right now. Is all I'm trying to say. I'm just
he won't be if I got anything to do with it. How about that?
You do. You're in the league, dog. Is what I'm trying to say. Is what I'm saying. You're in the league.
I had him on my team for like 24 hours.
You dropped him. So there's your evidence.
Because I felt like Trey Sermon might get more touches under the circumstances.
There's your evidence, Nick. All right, Nick was actually just asking, did somebody drop him? And it looks like that is the case. So the King of Pop actually picked up on Tank Bigsby earlier in the season and dropped him before the big influx of points. That's super fortunate for you there, Nick, and probably me. Either way, both of us lost. So whatever. We both lost it.
I had to give my comrades over here at the network a good, professional, but loving beating. It was joyful, but now you understand. King of Pop.
Right. We'll see what happens later. It's all about management, and like I'm saying, I managed some absolute genius this weekend. I just had to show the entire world again. Running back heavy situation. Not a lot of wide receivers out there on this squad, but somehow out of nowhere, Alex Pierce 32 fantasy football points on weekend. Darius Slayton, just crazy stuff, man.
So, hey, you forgot something though, kids. There's a little breaking news story going on. It's got a little intrigue to it as well. I don't know if you know, but Saleh, I forget.
Yeah, you're gonna break Robert Saleh on us, aren't you?
Robert Saleh is gone, but guess what? The word is by credible reporters is that he was going to fire Hackett, the offensive coordinator that Aaron Rodgers brought over with him. You know, he's been with him in Green Bay for years and years. He was going to fire that guy, talking about Saleh. And I guess Aaron Rodgers got wind of it, went to the ownership, and guess what? He's on the unemployment line. That's the story.
That's unfortunate.
He got escorted by security.
Yeah, he was escorted out by security
Wow.
earlier in the day. They've actually set out a full response by way of Robert Saleh. Oh. Uh-oh. All right. I'm going to leave Twitter. I'm going to leave Twitter immediately because they're getting into other potential aspects as to why Robert Saleh may have been relieved of his duties, and they're interesting to say the least. Twitter.
Pure sabotage, man. That's not the first coach he's gotten fired.
It isn't. Good old Mike McCarthy somewhere out there in Dallas because of similar situations. But hey,
so my question for you, fantasy people, is
to interrupt real quick. My bad.
Go ahead.
At least with firing McCarthy, it got them Matt LaFleur, which, to be fair, benefited that organization because they upgraded in coaching. There's a chance that can happen with the Jets here, and then it will leave them in good hands once Roger retires. So,
question is, do you guys think Aaron Rodgers begins to trend up, or do you think that's sour grapes in that locker room for what happened to that guy? Could it be some ramifications? You know, because if you don't have your comrades with you, man, you're not going to perform. I'm saying sell on Aaron Rodgers, man. I don't care what anybody says, but I'm listening to you guys.
Well, it's not like Robert Saleh was running the offense.
Well, there's a certain level of camaraderie amongst the guys that really, really like them. You know what I mean? And it just doesn't look good. You know, this is got Aaron Rodgers' fingerprints all over. You got an innocent guy fired because you didn't like a move he was going to make. Your coordinator, your handpicked guy who wasn't getting the job done. You get him fired. You get ready to fire him, and all of a sudden, this guy backdoors you like that. So you know those are professional men. They're all men in that locker room. How will they respond? I think Aaron Rodgers' trajectory is probably directly connected to that.
Trajectory in what manner?
Whether he's successful or not.
As a quarterback for the New York Jets?
You got to have people to catch the ball and play for you. Anybody going to go out of their way for that? You know, he's a snake in the grass like that? I probably wouldn't.
It all depends, really. I mean,
big time. Big time.
I mean,
what if he'd lost the offense completely?
It didn't look good out there. He might have already lost that.
Right. But if somehow Robert Saleh's lost the offense, I don't understand how Nathaniel Hackett thinks he has it, let alone the other guy that they've decided to choose as the interim. I don't,
I wonder, did they hire the DC as the interim head coach because he's the one that's getting the most camaraderie out of the players, or is it just a hand-picked selection by the upper management?
I would probably say probably the first thing you said, more or less trying to keep the continuity there. They know that Salah was the key to what the defense was able to do. You take him out of that room. Oh,
You
do
think
they
this
have
could
a
be
personality? What's
think this
that?
could be a potential Raiders situation where they let go of the head coach and then the DC rallies them all together to end up making a playoff run?
I think the opposite, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the opposite, man. I think this is a good. You got to remember, these are professionals. A lot of people came here because of a Robert Saleh influence. A lot of those guys that got off the free agent market, he's got to do the selling job. So for all they know, their existence is up for grabs. Will they even be there next year? All that kind of stuff I'm just gonna say my instincts tells me that you'll see some flashes of old Aaron Rodgers, but then you'll see old Aaron Rodgers literally out there. He just looked like a has-been out there. So
Absolutely.
my take on him generally has more to do with that than anything. He just looked like a shadow of himself, looked a little deer in the headlightish out there and just gun shy, So that's my take on him. I wouldn't. I'd sell to the first, like I said on the thumbnail, to the first unsuspecting person.
That's terrible. Unfortunately, I do have Aaron Rodgers on at least one squad, and the reality is I will look to dump Aaron Rodgers. I believe Justin Fields is wide open in that particular league too, so I'll that is sound advice. In any event, I don't see positive gains over there. I don't think good things are going to happen I don't think good things are going to happen over there. So we'll see. This doesn't like this. I didn't see how do you fire him with this? What's their record right now? Isn't it like 2-3 or 3-2?
Good question. Good question. But while we're talking about quarterbacks too, go back and look at the show from last week. Another name that I advise you guys to pick up, and he promptly went out there and threw for 400-some plus yards. Is Joe Flacco.
Yeah. When's Anthony Richardson coming back? So that's one of the big. It's one of the big narratives of it, not just this week, but potentially for the rest of the season by way of the Indianapolis Colts and their fantasy football value, right? As far as wide receivers are concerned. So once more, 30 plus fantasy football points for me with Alex Pierce this week. I think Alex Pierce I thought he was a great pickup. I kind of.
Kedz froze up on us. He's talking about Alex Pierce.
Wanted the Chicago.
He's breaking up.
Say again?
You were breaking up a little bit. Keep talking.
Okay. Am I back?
I can hear you. Your video is just catching up. You're all right.
Okay. Very strange. I can understand why. Give me a second. Let me try and fix the world. There. Less tabs is always a good thing,
You seem to be caught up.
All right. Okay. So yeah, no. With Flacco back there, that offense will see a very stark uptick. Those receivers aren't terrible. They're pretty good. I thought Alec Pierce was great coming out of college. And again, I had hoped the Bears would take a flyer on him when they were given the opportunity. Again, they did not. So moving forward, if Anthony Richardson's hurt, as far as fantasy football is concerned, that might mean a uptick in targets for all of the wide receiving core in Indianapolis, and quality targets too.
I got another proposition, something interesting to pay attention to this week, guys, and that's the situation out in Vegas. They put in Aiden, I forget his last name.
Hutchinson. No.
Yeah, and they took out Minshew, and it sounds like they might be to their advantage to go back to Minshew. Because you got to think about right now, there's some turmoil and some flux going on in Vegas. And when coaches start feeling feeling kind of under the guns. A lot of question marks surrounding it. Antonio Pierce right now, and the reasons why Devontae Adams doesn't want to be there. He's connected to that story. And quite frankly, that's when coaches really start coaching for their mortal lives in the league, trying to hold on to a job. So I think if my antennas would tell me that he's going to give himself the best chance to get a W, and I believe that is Gardner Minshew. And so if you got quarterback issues right now, that might not be a bad look for you. You got to be, if you're really struggling at that spot and not getting anything going on, this is a good time to grab that guy.
Yep. I can't co-sign that one. I wouldn't send anybody any.
You wouldn't mess with Daniel Jones right now. I told you he wouldn't look bad this year.
I would still not. No. I would not mess with Daniel Jones at all. You know what I'm saying? Like I would dodge Daniel Jones like the plague if at all possible. Somehow his wide receivers are doing it. Here's the reality. Sometimes the wide receiver core uplifts the quarterback. And I've always liked Slayton. I think Slayton's great. Wanda, is it Wanda Robinson over there? Is he the other one? I think he's the other one. Alongside Malik Neighbors, those three guys in the offense could be a very dangerous thing once they figure it all out. Again, is Danny Dimes the guy? Like, I don't know.
Look good for the last 2 weeks, bro.
He has been, and again, it's got a lot to do with that wide receiver core. So big respect to those young receivers coming in there and getting the job done. I know Slayton's been there for a while, but they got to have at least some level of a veteran presence there too. So I think they have the ability to put up some decent fantasy football numbers over the next couple of weeks. That said, I'm going to look at their upcoming matchups there very shortly. To be honest, they're up against Cincinnati this week. Cincinnati ain't really been doing all that much by way of defense lately. So, yeah, hate to say this, but
they're definitely leaking on defense. If I had a quarterback quandary, I'd look at he'd be a guy I'd be looking at right now.
Daniel Jones?
If I had a quarterback quandary.
Wow. Okay. Well, worth a conversation. I think Mr. Flacco's worth a much more of a conversation. I think it's out of the woodwork, and he's only available until Anthony Richardson decides that he's ready to go. But Joe Flacco's pretty automatic.
Easy pick.
Huh?
Easy pickup.
Yeah. And yes, there will be picks too, but take that for what it's worth. You'll get both from Joe Flacco.
400 yards, a couple TDs, he can throw me a pick.
Yeah, he'll throw you a pick. Yeah. It's just how he goes to market. He gets the job done. He does. Doesn't really matter what team he's going to. He knows defenses. He's got a decent arm. Joe Flacco, ladies and gentlemen. He'll look. Wow, rostered in 14% of leagues out there. Just to sort of put it into perspective, he's likely super available, and it's really a question of whether if your quarterback is going off to bye week over the course of the next 2 weeks. Yeah, man, take a look at Joe Flacco. Quick pickup, dump whoever ain't getting it done on your squad, and then get rid of Joe when your guy's back.
His arm is more than decent. He's still got a freaking cannon on it. He can still throw it as far as Anthony Richardson.
Dude, there's nothing. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with Joe Flacco at all. Nothing.
Nope.
He's just not the young new guy, and that's the unfortunate reality here. What I think we're going to see in Indianapolis over the course of the next couple of weeks is an explosion of offense, and they may have to make a bit of a decision. Do you bring back the young rookie to get the reps that he needs to grow, or do you try to win now with Joe Flacco?
what's interesting about the whole scenario is, and this goes to my way of thinking on whether or not to grab a guy like a Joe Flacco or a backup quarterback. The best thing about them is they have absolutely no expectations on them and nothing to lose. And so they're going to play footloose and fancy free, and they're going to let that ball go. And, typically after a team's been struggling with the starting quarterback, the offense seems to respond. The receivers seem to respond. The running game kind of picks up, and everybody's got new vigor all of a sudden. So I've always liked those situations. And I think Joe Flacco, for at least the next couple of games, is probably a pretty good pickup.
Man, I'm fully with you, brother. Let me give some shout outs to all the folks out there in the chat. Big love to all you guys. What it do, Patty Laura? Big shout out to you. Thanks for representing. Thanks for supporting the show. Shout out to you. It's Crimson. Awesome to have you. Number one guy out there in the chat. King Booker World, super flexer. King Booker World's out there. Super flexer. Ant Moss is out there. What's popping, Ant Moss? Big shout outs to all you guys. D Rocket Drink Burns. Yeah, he looks old. No love for Joe Flacco, but it's all good, bro. It's all good. It's all good. Hey, man. Anyhow, I just wanted to give a little bit of love to those who love us, and we'll keep it moving. Speaking of keeping it moving, a couple other quarterbacks that look like they're trending in the right direction. Good old Kirk Cousins. Tampa Bay looks like the Atlanta Falcons might have an offense over here. You like that?
Remember last week, and here's me patting myself on the back again, but you guys got to pay attention. I told you Kirk Cousins' new favorite weapon is going to be Darnell Mooney. And what does he do? Well,
he hit. Quite frankly, he hit everybody. Darnell Mooney definitely got it done too. But he spread that ball around. Drake London had a big game. Kyle Pitts had a big game too. And I think everybody in fantasy football land been waiting to say the name Kyle Pitts. There he is. Kyle Pitts. Everybody been waiting to say Kyle Pitts. Look at that. Nothing burger in week 4. 15 fantasy football points as a tight end for Kyle Pitts. That's all Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco's really uplifted this offense.
You mean
gotta give him credit.
Kirk Cousins?
Sorry, my bad. Kirk Cousins, my bad. Thanks for catching me on that. But yeah, he's really uplifted this entire offense. Good old Darnell Mooney, rostered in 66% of leagues. 44% started last week. I guess people were catching on. A lot of noise out there for Darnell. But let's be real about this. He's been putting up pretty solid numbers all season. 17 points in week 2, 14 in week 3, 41 fantasy football points in week 5. Just killing it in week 5 with Kirk Cousins. But yeah, man, Atlanta got an offense, y'all. By all means, if there's any straggles out there from that Atlanta offense available, get them. Drake London isn't a joke either. That's what I'm saying.
I'm telling you, Mooney's trajectory is going to really go up. I know we're talking about quarterbacks, but I just want to make sure I put an emphasis on that.
Oh, yeah. In a big way. Speaking of quarterbacks, our guy, our homie, the big homie, Caleb Williams. Man, speaking of offenses, I think, I was talking about an offensive formula and figuring out what defenses are trying to do and one-upping them and using that against them. And they're starting to understand that, and I say they, really the young rookie's starting to understand that. And as he moves forward, he's going to just simply get that much better. So I expect another relatively sizable output from him this coming week against a pretty soft Jacksonville Jaguars squad. And
they're not soft.
I was just going to say that the defensive line in Jacksonville is actually pretty square too. Like, they're pretty solid. there will be some challenges there. But again,
could be one of his tougher challenges to, if they don't get blocked up, what they need to get blocked up. He could be challenged. I know Caleb Williams is probably rostered and stashed in most leagues, and people are just waiting for him to click. And I think this week he'll probably be starting for a lot of teams on their fantasy teams this week, because I think people can kind of see where the trend is going. They feel like it's going up, but I would caution people because this Jaguars defense is underrated, especially along that front. He could be boom or bust this week.
Yeah, I'm going with boom this week. That's my thoughts on this. I don't think I think the Chicago Bears go to London and absolutely dismantle the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I am a card-carrying Chicago Bears fan, rocking a Chicago Bears hat and jersey, so take that for what it's worth. But I think they're starting to understand how to manage what other teams are trying to do to them. And this offensive line, the Bears' offensive line this past week, even with Tevin Jenkins having issues, stepped up to the plate and played very well in both phases, right? Both pass protection and running the ball. I was impressed. I was impressed by what they pulled off this week. Again, with injury and issues, they pulled it off and they did a great job. I hope they can do a similar job against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That defensive front is pretty solid. But I feel like this is going to be a very I feel like the Bears are going to go into the bye week with another win.
You know what? It's what's interesting about this is we just did a show last night with Alex Shapiro. Go check that show out. And last night we did that show, and we were in an agreement 110% that everything looks up in Chicago. We're talking about offensively and defensively, but specifically on the offense. Number one, let me just speak to the defensive point of view here and the opportunity Caleb could have extra looks at taking some shots at the end zone and giving you some extra points. I think Trevor Lawrence can definitely be had by a very experienced defense and a sound defense like the Chicago Bears. And I think Caleb Williams can give you, because of that, Caleb Williams can give you some points, let's say about 14 points that you didn't see coming. What I mean by 14 points is 2 touchdowns, whatever that adds up to in fantasy. But I think that he's going to get some extra shots in a low red zone area to get some points. So that's another reason to maybe consider putting him in your starting lineup.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. At the end of the day, I think if you're rostering Caleb Williams, again, 59% of folks out there are. He was only started by 28% of folks last week, which is a pretty low percentage. I know that I started him last week, but I'm also going to tell you that is the team that I have Aaron Rodgers on. So there was sort of a reason why I started him last week. I thought it was time, and I didn't believe that Aaron Rodgers was going to get it done last week either. So that being the case, I'm one of that 28%. I'm definitely going to start him again this week. I have even less faith in what's going on with the New York Jets. So, that's part of my reasoning. But more importantly, I feel like they're going to do very well against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I will warn you, kids. You got to think about the psychology of this. And that's just to everybody, all maniacs, and anybody else watching the show and on any streaming platform, whatever. There is think about this in a sense of psychology. You're Aaron Rodgers. You just got a guy fired. Everybody in the locker room is pointing at you. You probably have something to prove. You better be right about what you just did to this innocent guy. So Aaron Rodgers has every reason to go out there and set the world on fire at the same time. Can he is the question. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, but no. I don't try. When there's smoke, there's fire, and in the NFL, when there's dysfunction, it just seems to breed more dysfunction. I haven't really seen many situations where things just suddenly became awesome in when you fired the head coach of a team in mid-season.
In other news,
The Raiders. It happened twice with the Raiders.
Say again.
It happened twice with the Raiders when they fired Gruden and when they fired McDaniels.
But did things suddenly get better for the Raiders, or are we still in a situation where things are pretty poop for the Raiders?
That's on the GMs and them for not retaining the first time around, not retaining the head coach, not the head coach, the defensive coordinator as head coach because he got them to win games. They corrected those wrongs now with Antonio Pierce. However, I mean,
you know what? This is an interesting conversation, Joe. So I wish I could remember that guy's name, but that guy would have been a good head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders, and he was their special teams coach who took over. In any event, my point was, I'm still right. Things have gotten worse in both situations. Like the Raiders scraped their way into the playoffs under LaVecchia, I believe was his last name. Anyhow, they did scrape into the playoffs, but they weren't really going in the same trajectory that they were going in last time around. Didn't work out very well for them last season when they did it and got rid of McDaniel. It wasn't a positive situation. That's just never a positive situation, man.
In other news, the Naj must have a strong ass team because he started Watson and still won. You got a pretty good team if you started Deshaun Watson and you still won. That's pretty good. Shout out to Naj, man. Hats off, man, because, man, ain't nowhere in the world I'm running his ass out there and no start right now.
Big ups to you, Naj. I'm not trying to see if I can see your team.
He's talking. What are you talking about? Wayne Fonts, he says.
Where's he at? Where's the Naj at? Team Naj. Boom. Deshaun Watson with 8 fantasy football points. Holy things are not real good in Cleveland.
I tell everybody to fire everything Cleveland Browns to the damn moon.
Yeah, we had a whole round table about it, me and you last week, and I think we were, things are still the same. Ain't nothing changed, nothing going on but the rent in Cleveland, man. Kyron Williams, Brian Robinson. So you went, okay. DK Metcalf, Romo Dunze, Cade Otton, Aaron Jones, Whittington, my bad. Boswell, the kicker, Minnesota defense holding it down. Wow. Yeah, your team ain't all that great, Notch.
Whoever he was playing must have sucked bad. Because...
Man, Notch scored 113 points and still took out and wow. It's kind of surprising.
He's playing Country Santa.
Yeah, he got the best of Country Santa.
Shout out to Country Santa wherever he is, man. I hope he's doing well.
Yeah, big love to you there, Brian, for sure, brother. We love you, man. Man, yeah. Like your team's a little bit more dangerous with these other guys in it, though. That's for sure. But yeah, it was a bye week for the Lions. Like basically last week was the beginning of bye weeks. There's a fair amount of teams off on week 4. Just something we should have sort of indicated and indicating it now. Pay attention now comes the management, y'all. Pay attention to when those bye weeks are and move your guys around quickly, because I really wasn't all that in much of a realization that the Lions weren't playing this week. Why? Mainly because I hate the Lions. Look, I have stark disdain for the Lions. I don't hate them. Like out of all the teams out there, I don't hate them. They live in a similar world as the rest of us. So it is what it is. You know, it is what it is. Shout out to you. Oh, no love for Don Burr. Anyhow,
we haven't even got the running backs yet.
No, we haven't. That's Team the Nodge. Let's move on to these backs here, man. These backs trending up. Boom. Yeah. As much as we've, as much as we've been trashing good old Jacksonville, we do have to say Tank Bigsby's doing great things over there. I'm not so sure he's going to take over the starting reins from Travis Etienne. I just don't see that happening. But when he gets in, he's still having pretty solid, production. He is. So worth a stash if the opportunity is there. And SuperFlexers, it is actually there live and direct. So, do what thou wilt. Who else I want to talk about? Rico Dowdle. Rico. After Lucy comes Rico. So Rico Dowdle, man. 24 fantasy football points last week. Rostered in 64% of leagues. Started in 29, which is sort of understandable. His output is very boom or bust. They're facing the Detroit Lions next week. I don't know what to tell you. I think he's definitely startable. I'm not so sure you're going to see this type of output from him week in and week out. Same token, I believe Zeke's a little bit hurt, so it might just mean additional carries for him this week. So we'll leave Rico alone. Who else we got?
Now hold on. Here's some more psychology to think about, because
for Rico,
although I haven't seen it actually play out, but we're only a couple of weeks away from the trade deadline. And if you watch enough Dallas Cowboys, which most of America probably does, even though they hate them, they'll watch the Dallas Cowboys game, and you can see that they're leaking at the running back spot 100%. And if they ever want to take this team on a playoff run, they're going to have to make a move at running back. So if some of those whispers start to come out during this week, Rico Dowdle could be a pretty good pickup, because he's going to play with a little bit extra vigor. But I think I wouldn't put him in. I wouldn't pick him up unless I had a total train wreck at my running back spot and I really, really needed something. That's about what I think about Rico Dowdle and his trajectory.
All right, cool. I'm with it. Shout out to you, Mo Fugra, and a big shout out to you, Smitty Q. Good to have you both. Who else we got out there? Oh, Roshan Johnson, our guy Roshan. I don't know what to tell you guys on this one. Roshan has been the ultimate vulture, right? Like, he's just snaking TDs left, right, and center, and I don't blame the guy. He's north and south. Put a former offensive lineman in front of him, and for the most part, he'll find his way into the end zone. So that's what's been happening this last couple of weeks in Chicago. I'm trying to think, like, does that somehow change or stop? What do you think there, King of Pop? Because I don't think that changes or stops anytime soon.
Well, to put it in perspective, I was told by the coaching staff, actually in particular the offensive coordinator or the head coach, that Khalil Herbert was going to be the goal line back. I since then, with my finger on the button, getting ready to get Khalil Herbert, I'm glad I didn't, because clearly it's going to be Roshan Johnson. Clearly they may be thinking about doing something with Khalil Herbert. Yeah, I think he's a touchdown getter, and in these situations here, I think that trajectory for Roshan Johnson is definitely going up.
Okay.
You might have a question here too, by the way.
Yeah, I was just about to hit that up for King Cards. Trade advice. Need wide receivers. Have running backs covered. I can trade Chubb and Ford for either Shakir, Leggett, or Dobbs Dell.
You're going to – I can't see either.
So you're going to
having a lot of value, either Chubb or Ford. You're gonna have to probably give up. You're gonna throw something else in there.
Well, he's saying he's saying these are legit. Like, hopefully these are legit offer or like opportunities for you there, King Cards. I would definitely do. I would try to get out of that Cleveland situation with either one of those running backs and trade up to a Shakir if you could. I think that's the best bang for buck situation. Legette's Legette's a questionable situation at best, right?
He's saying it's a done deal. He's already pretty much made the transaction.
Yeah. Okay. If you can do it, I would definitely go Shakir Legette. That would be what I would do. Dobbs is falling out of favor in Green Bay, and to make matters worse, Tank Dell's getting hurt a lot, and he hasn't really been producing. It seems to be the Nico Collins show over there, and let's also give mad respect to Diggs, to Stephon Diggs. Not a lot's been happening with Tank Dell this season, and I feel like he's probably just working through some sort of a long-term injury, because in my opinion, that kid is amazing. Like, there's 3 wide receivers in the league that I think are in a bit of a category of their own, and that's Tyreek Hill, Tank Dell, and Malik Neighbors. Oh, 4 of them. And the 4th one is Xavier Worthy. Anyways, I would definitely go for Shakir Legette.
You gotta.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay with the hurt situation. It's the output down the road.
The only thing about those guys is because they're lighter frame guys, you got to have a good qualified backup for weeks. You got to if you're gonna draft a guy like that, you definitely got to have a good solid backup to do that.
Yeah. That's my thoughts. I would go Shakir. I think you'll get more bang for buck down the road. And I don't know what they're going to do with Dobbs. That's a huge, big question. Thanks for sort of pushing us right over to the wide receiver room. But before we do, man, let me look at this, because I'm like, oh, okay.
Who the hell?
Interesting. Say again?
Who's this guy here?
Yeah, this is why what I'm.
What is he? What is he? Oh, he's a running back.
Okay, so let's just look here for a second. So Tyrone Tracy, New York Giants. Devin Singletary was out last game. It's possible he may be out this game too. Hard to say. That being the scenario, this young man basically stepped in and killed it last week. 63% of snaps, 21 points by way of fantasy football, rostered in 34% of leagues out there, which is super surprising to me, because I'm just now like kind of cluing in to who Tyrone Tracy is. 14% started. That's a very low starting case scenario out there. So it looks like folks have rostered him in like a worst case scenario thing. And here he is, best case scenario, killing it, right? So that's something to look at. Tyrone Tracy, if you're really hurting that running back. My guy, King Cards, if you're already running back heavy, and you're getting rid of a guy like Nick Chubb and or Ford, not crazy to pick up on a Tyrone Tracy just in case, as a backup back there.
This might throw you for a little bit of a curve, but I do think we got to back up a little bit to the backup quarterback spot for some money and some parlays for some people. I do, and I haven't heard the latest news on the situation with Derek Carr. But he left that game, looked like he might have either strained or did something. The reports didn't sound good while I was watching the game yesterday. He might have strained something in his rib cartilage, and that might take a while. So the backup situation in New Orleans may be something to look at. I don't know who their backup is. But all of your
Spencer
fantasy
Rattler.
that is he looked probably better than most of the rookie quarterbacks in the league. I mean, the rookie quarterbacks in the league during preseason. Spencer Rattler looked really good. I'm just saying that's a situation to monitor. It's one of those things. You'll be great and a genius if you grabbed him, stashed him, and then messed around and played him for a week and he went crazy. But that's a guy we want to look at, man, right there. Oblique, and my guy Deuce is saying oblique injury. And he says
he's a big
Jay Hayner is number 2.
Jay Hayner or Spencer Rattler?
Not likely Spencer Rattler is number 2. He's a rook. It's probably right behind somebody.
Yeah, but still, would they rather get the rookie the reps, or do they want to go with Jay Hayner, who
So Kedz froze up again. Smitty Q is calling an oblique injury for Derek Carr.
I'm not familiar with either. Right. I mean, oh, here he is. Let's say again.
No, go ahead. You just kind of cut out for a second. Keep going.
So no. You were saying something about Smitty Q.
I was just repeating what Deuce just said. Smitty just said it's an oblique.
Rattler's QB3.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I have no idea who Haney is. None whatsoever.
Fresno State alum.
Hayner, is that his name? Hayner. But you never know. You just never know when you get those backups in. Play with nothing to lose. Sometimes that's just good for you.
So Hayner stepped in for Carr, right? So there's all that. He actually played, playing against Kansas City, so not a great situation for a young guy to step into. But stepped in nonetheless, did what he what he could. I have no clue who they'll really decide to start this coming week. And you might be right there, Deuce One. It might actually be Jacob Hayner.
And you know what? In games like that, I tend to, when you got backup quarterbacks in there and you're playing a really, really good defense, I tend to favor tight ends in that matchup. So whoever the tight end is for New Orleans, that's a guy I'd give a look. I haven't heard any names of who the tight ends are down there, but he could be Taysom Hill could also be a nice pickup there.
Yeah, he's that guy, right? So that's why I went directly to Taysom. Same token, that may also lead to QB snaps for Taysom too. Okay, things are a little bit different over there. With different ownership, leadership, management, etc. They may not want to give him snaps at quarterback. But King of Pop is right. It does. These shaky quarterback situations usually turn into higher output for the tight end. So definitely a good look over the next coming weeks for Taysom Hill and the tight end core in New Orleans. I believe there's another guy, and I think he's really good too.
There you go. Deuce just helped you out. He was talking about the tight end.
Foster Moreau is good too. And Johnson, he says. There's a third one. Who's Johnson? Which Johnson? Anyways.
I know what Johnson that is. He's a rookie, I believe.
And I think he's really good.
Yeah, I liked him coming out of the draft.
Yeah.
He was on the draft show, I believe.
Oh, blanking out on the first name right now, man. Blanking out.
Theo might be his name or something.
Let me look at just.
Oh, it's a different. Deuce is telling me it's a different guy. I'm thinking about Theo Johnson from Penn State.
All right. Okay. Okay. Cool.
These are good parlay opportunities for you guys, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah. No, there's definitely good conversations to be had. Taking a closer look at that New Orleans Saints situation with Derek Carr going down. You might be able to be a little bit nimble next week if the requirement is there. Take a look at the tight ends over there. Take a look at the running backs over there. It may mean for additional touches for Jamal Williams in a situation where the ball's usually going elsewhere. Again, might also mean for a negative situation for the wide receiving core out in New Orleans. So pay attention to all those things. Just keep me all in the know.
By the way, it's Juwan Johnson. Thank you, Naj.
Juwan Johnson, thank you, Deuce.
Thank you for getting me right now.
Sorry, thank you, Naj. Thank you, Naj. Appreciate it. Juwan Johnson's a really good. He's a really good tight end, and I think I think he's worth a look if he's available out there in your on your team in your fantasy football league. Let me look at what else we got out there. So we've taken a look at QBs, RBs. Let's slide on over to wide receiver. We've touched on the Darnell Mooney thing. Super rostered, pretty started, mad output. I think, oh my goodness me, they're playing the Carolina Panthers. If you're not starting Darnell Mooney in week 6, you've made a big mistake. So there's that. I'm just gonna leave that alone.
Really is given out. Now this is befuddling to me, but definitely wouldn't. What's strange about this is I've seen guys like Chris Olave who you would expect be getting heavy targets, but probably one of the best young receivers in the league. And if for whatever reason David Carr is not connecting with him, then on comes the backup quarterback. And next thing you know, he's looking for Olave and connecting with him. And so I would challenge you on that, Illinois. I wouldn't look at, history and say that, all right, this is not a good start. Sometimes it goes exactly the opposite. You might be right. I might be wrong, but I will still put him in there, man. He's a dog, and eventually somebody's going to connect with him.
Ellie, I'm with you, Sil Olave. I'm right there with you, bro. I don't think with a quarterback situation like that, if it's shaky, you may want to look elsewhere if you have the ability to do so. So, that's my 2 cents there. I wouldn't look at the wide receiving core over in New Orleans as being viable this week.
As the worst feeling in the world is having an explosive player disappoint you for a few weeks, and then you sit him, and next thing you know, boom, boom.
Yeah, but I think it's not so much the sitting situation here is not so much based on his talent or normal output. Olave actually has been putting up decent enough numbers, but this week without Derek Carr, I don't know what you do with an Olave.
Yeah, Deuce is like Rashid Ali is I think the Derek Carr's kind of favorite option right now, and it's kind of put Chris Olave kind of on the afterburners a little bit. But I don't know that this backup quarterback is gonna. It's always different. That dynamic really never ceases to amaze me. You put a guy that's been doing nothing. Next thing you know, the backup comes in and he's finding him. I've seen that too many times. I would not sit Chris Olave. I'd start him.
Well, depends on options. Even Illy says it, and I'm so with you, Illinois Jones. Shout out to you, brother. I don't know. If I had options, bro, I would go elsewhere. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm.
You got a flex spot that's questionable this week. Better keep him in there.
If it's questionable, if you got something else you can put there, I would flex somebody else. Speaking of flexing somebody else, Jalen Tolbert, ladies and gentlemen, really made his impression felt this week. I'm like, let's just look at this output so far. We're starting with snaps for Jalen Tolbert. 67% week 1, week 2, 86%, week 3, 75, week 4, 70, week 5, 89% snaps. Now that stark uptick is because Brandon Cooks was not out there with them this week. He was suffering from an injury, which may bleed into this coming week as well. Fact of the matter is, he's out there. this guy's out there, and they know it. He's putting up pretty decent numbers, 14 points, 13 points in the first couple of weeks, and 21 fantasy football points this week. He actually, I believe, caught was it 1 yard more than CeeDee Lamb this week, or was it one target more? One or the other. In any event, they're trying to get him involved in this offense, and he's only rostered in 18% of leagues out there. Started in 7. Keep your eyes peeled. If you got a Chris Olave, I might suggest transitioning over to a Jalen Tolbert for a week or two if you're flex deficient right now.
Well,
not a bad move.
Deuce has a question. If you don't mind, I'd like to take the steering wheel on this one.
Is Pickens gonna get traded out of Pittsburgh? That's coming out of the mind of Deuce One. Go for it there, King of Pop.
All right, here's my thinking, Deuce. This is what I know is happening. What happens, with this level of frustration, is he starting to make a stink in the locker room and amongst the team and creating a problem? I don't know. But I can tell you for sure, teams are shading coverage over him, and Justin Fields is having a hard time targeting him. They don't have a lot of options at receiver. So, they're in the conversations about Devontae Adams. As a matter of fact, they were in the conversations. Why do you think they went so hard after Brandon Ayuk? Pickens not being, when you put coverage, you shade coverage over the top of a guy that explosive, it's just going to frustrate him if he doesn't have the right mind. And Pickens is obviously immature. How bad it gets probably depends on how soon the trade deadline gets here, because they got to hurry up and get another viable option to kind of get him loose. But they're absolutely shading coverage, and he's just frustrated.
Everything he said and a little bit more. It's kind of funny that I guess Ryan Poles kind of saw that little situation coming.
Yeah. They were trying to get Ayuk for the right reasons, man. They knew that they'd have a problem on their hands if they didn't, put somebody opposite of him and give him some proper looks, man. But they definitely need another receiver out there, or it's just going to get pretty bad for him. So you got another question there from Illy.
How's Brian Thomas Jr. been playing for the Jags? Well, there are a couple of conversations to be had about the Jacksonville Jaguars. We touched on the first one. Here's the second one. This is a good conversation to be had. And to be quite frank, probably like one of the most obvious situations in this year's draft. This kid was fantastic. And those first 5 wide receivers drafted are all really, really good. Like the wide receivers in this draft were crazy. So take a look at BTJR. This kid, man, 33 fantasy football points this week, 64% of snaps, and that's on a downturn for him. He may have hurt himself a little bit this week. Let's take a look if he's all right. Nope, he's fine. You know what I'm saying? This kid is great. He's really doing what he needs to do. 8 targets on the week, 5 receptions, 122 yards. That's just crazy yak. What are we looking at? Yards per catch, 15.2. Unfortunately, folks, he's rostered everywhere and started everywhere. This is not a secret. The kid's a stud. The question is, is he on a dud team? I don't know. And I'm definitely going to find out up close and personal this week when I'm watching my Bears game and they're out in London and they're doing the darn thing. I have a feeling though against that Bears secondary, man.
Do you remember doing the receiver show when I was saying I was dead set on if we didn't get Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors early in the draft, this was definitely the guy to go and get. I'm glad with trust me, I know Doomsday, but this dude is a lot more explosive.
Who did he play with Jaden Daniels?
Yep.
That's how it went. Yeah, I don't want to go down this road because it just leads me into a whole other realm. I'm glad we are where we are, and if things were different, I definitely had some visions of a Brian Thomas Jr. rolling with the Chicago Bears in some capacity. But facts are facts. This kid is balling, as Produce One. Shout out to you out there, brother. He is that good. He's the real deal. Trevor Lawrence knows he has a number one caliber wide receiver in BTJR. Kid's lightning fast, relatively tall, lengthy, to run routes, clean.
And on everybody's team, and we don't need to talk about his ass no more. Nobody.
I could talk about him a whole bunch more, but you're darn right. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to Ray McLeod. Ray, man. So yeah, table stakes, right? Like Ray McLeod has been doing very well this season. His snaps are wow. He is on almost 100% of snaps for the Atlanta Falcons. That being the case, he's definitely going to see output, and his output is stark. It has been trending upward, right? So he's pushing, 11 to 12 fantasy football points these past 2 weeks. Oh boy, the Falcons are going to Carolina again. I did mention that with Darnell Mooney. Oh boy. You might want to look at Ray McLeod for week 6 if you need to stream a wide receiver, y'all. I'm not saying he's going to light up the world for the remainder of this season, but I have a feeling he's going to light it up this week. Any thoughts on Ray McLeod, my brother?
Not really.
No? Okay.
I think it's going to be a lot of Mooney, a lot of Pitts, and a lot of Drake London.
Well, 98% of snaps, he's definitely going to see something going on. So, take it for what it's worth. Need a wide receiver, not the craziest look in the world. Speaking of crazy looks, my guy Darius Slayton. I had to make a judgment call on Darius Slayton late on Sunday. Things were not looking good. Malik Neighbors was not playing. I said, what the heck? Let me go grab a Darius Slayton strictly because I've rostered him in the past. He can just step up to the plate. He's super unrostered. Huh?
I thought you photoshopped Kyrie Irving in on his image.
Maybe Kyrie Irving is the bargain basement Darius Slayton.
Right about now, they could probably use Kyrie Irving.
They use a whole heck of a lot in general. But hey, you know what? Great game for the Giants last week. They played very well. At least the offense definitely did. They put up some ridiculous numbers, and a lot of it was courtesy of this guy right here. So pay attention to the Giants offense. Things are starting to happen over there, including at the running back position. So at 8% rostered, 3% started. He's available in most fantasy football leagues. They're going up against the Cincinnati Bengals this coming week. I don't know what to say. Normally, the Cincinnati Bengals field a Super Bowl caliber, or at least a playoff caliber defense. That hasn't really been the case the last couple of weeks. Take it for what it's worth. I have a strange feeling this week wasn't the last time we're going to hear the name Darius Slayton in 2024. I think there may be some decent output from him again this week here. Moving off of Darius, just a heads up. 30 fantasy football points for Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju really hasn't been doing all that much, but Rashee Rice is gone. So
exactly why he is a great pickup right now, because he slides directly into that Rashee Rice role. He won't stop targeting in short areas. This Juju is going to he may, if he can stay healthy, knock on wood, he may be able to put up just as good as numbers or better than as Rashee Rice. So you're talking about a sneaky great pickup. Juju Smith-Schuster is a smoking hot pickup right now in fantasy right now because, like, if it's what I think it is and Rashee Rice is done for the year, his trajectory just goes up.
Yeah, that almost goes without saying. Rostered in 7% of leagues, started in 1% of leagues. Juju Smith-Schuster only put up 67% of snaps last week. That is going to continue to trend upward moving forward. And I would not be surprised if these numbers continue to trend in a similar manner. Again, 30 fantasy football points in a week is definitely a spike, but he's a solid wide receiver. We all know that he is. He was just in a little bit of a situation where he was before. So coming into Kansas City, let's see how Juju Smith-Schuster does. I think he's just going to continue for success. And that is Juju Smith-Schuster in KC. There's a couple more wide receivers I want to touch on. Michael Wilson. I like what's going on in Arizona by way of offense. Kyler Murray's putting up some redonkulous numbers. Nobody's talking about it, and that includes me. Somehow we skated through we skated through the quarterback conversation without talking about Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray's putting up great numbers, and this is one of the recipients of those numbers. The other guy is, for the most part, Marvin Harrison Jr., who we all would have expected to see those numbers, right? So that wide receiver core is really nice. Michael Wilson is worth his while, only rostered in 23% of leagues, started in 9. By all means, keep your eyes peeled on Michael Wilson. 72%, 90%, 85%, 80%, and 68% in week 2 by way of snaps. The kid sees the field, and when he's on the field, he produces. So if you need to stream a wide receiver, Michael Wilson is not a bad look either.
Who else is a nugget for you might want to point out?
Oh yeah, KC is on bye week. Hey, that's fine. Just stash that Juju Smith-Schuster. He's not going anywhere unless Rashee Rice is healthy coming out of the bye week. Stash Juju Smith-Schuster. I bet you have a dud sitting on your bench somewhere that you need to get rid of. So continue looking via that means. This guy. This is my guy. I like this guy. 31 fantasy football points in week 1, and a bit of an anomaly. People thought it was crazy because, one wild, ridiculous pass by Anthony Richardson, and Alec Pierce gets into the end zone, and everybody just sort of said, man, that was a crazy pass by Anthony Richardson. And it was. But Alec Pierce is actually a really good wide receiver, y'all. I don't know who's rostered in 20%, started in 6. I'm just letting you guys know he's a really good wide receiver, and people are slipping. So they're rolling up against the Tennessee Titans this week, who have a pretty staunch defense. Really depends on what they decide to do by way of quarterback. If they are looking at Joe Flacco again, man, by all means, start yourself some Alec Pierce. If you need to stream a wide receiver this week, start yourself some Alec Pierce.
If it's Anthony Richardson, sit his ass down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You don't want much to do with Anthony Richardson over the next week or two until again he decides to come back, and even then, questionable output. But with Flacco, different story. Mad output for this wide receiver core, and I think a lot of it's going to wind up in the hands of Alec Pierce. Keep your eyes peeled, y'all. We'll move off of here, and I think we're pretty good for wide receivers, right? I think we're pretty good. Produces more than Russell Wilson, considering Russell's on the bench. Alec Pierce could be an option. Yeah, bro. He's an option, bro. He's an option, no doubt. And that's from the mind of Illy out there. Shout outs. By way of tight ends. So So there's this. I'm going to go right to Kyle Pitts. Like I said earlier, we've all waited to talk about Kyle Pitts. I'm not so sure if today's really the day, though. So I'm just checking myself here. He sees a bunch of snaps. He's on the field, but that has been the case forever. His output is so sporadic. I'm not sure. Oh, here we go. Atlanta versus Carolina. So yeah, if you got a tight end, if you need to play a tight end this week, Kyle Pitts should be a guy to play. They're playing the Carolina Panthers. But outside of that, I'd continue to be a little bit worried about Kyle Pitts because he just does not do. He just hasn't lived up to his particular billing. Is where I am with that. He was drafted very high, and they were hoping to see Sam Laporta like output, Travis Kelce like output, Noah Fant like output, and it really hasn't quite been that from Kyle Pitts thus far. So, shout out to him. Hopefully things start to trend upwards. Speaking of trending upwards, our guy Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's putting up respectable fantasy football numbers here, folks. But again, in a battle against the Jacksonville Jaguars, very possible and potential for a fair amount of Cole Kmet usage. By way of snaps, week 1 was a total anomaly. Every Bears fan out there was trying to figure out why Cole Kmet was not being utilized in this offense. It doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. Week 2, output basically doubled. Week 3 continued to trend up. We're now week 5 at 84%. Yeah, his numbers are trending up, and I expect them to continue to do so. May not see some level of crazy spike, but don't be surprised if you do. Taysom Hill, definite spike this week. Definite spike. Whoever.
Is he healthy?
Oh, Taysom Hill's out, bro.
Right.
That's why they went straight to the other 2 quarterbacks. Wow. So much for Taysom Hill, but again, maybe he's back the following week. Mark Andrews. I'm not sure why they have Mark Andrews trending up here at all, because these aren't the fantasy football numbers that Mark Andrews should be putting up here. Mind you, he's been hurting, and Isaiah Likely seems to be putting up a lot of the Mark Andrews like work in Baltimore. So I don't know. I feel like
I'll tell you why it's probably not the best start, because in the last couple of years he didn't really have a lot to compliment him out there as far as weaponry and different things like that. He's got a lot of compliments now. When you have Zay Flowers, now you Isaiah Likely is surging a little bit when he's getting looks, and so he's not the most targeted guy anymore. So that offense was pretty much featured around him. It's about as much as Travis Kelce and Mahomes. He's not going to see that level of volume that you guys are waiting on, because he's had a complement of guys around him. So I don't think he's the best start in the world. But if you're sitting there with a tight end situation, there's a boom aspect to Mark Andrews that could happen in a game, but just consistently, I don't see it.
That's all. I feel a little bit differently about that, because I don't see Lamar using anybody but them 2 tight ends, man. He uses Mark, he uses Isaiah, and then he uses his feet mostly. Sometimes he uses Zay Flowers too, but like really, what I'm trying to say is the odd man out there is Bateman. Ain't nothing happening with him.
He's been trending up the last couple of weeks, so.
Man, let me double check and see if he's anywhere on this list, because I would be very surprised.
He put up a couple touchdowns in the last couple of weeks.
That guy's like the most boom and bust football player there could possibly be.
But I'm saying that's something to pay attention to.
Yeah. Super boom and bust. Guys to look at though. Definitely the Nodge's guy, Cade Otton, if he's available out there. Rostered in 42% of leagues, started in 23. His output's been up and down, but at the same time, I really like what's happening in Tampa Bay. I think they'll continue to get him involved in the offense with 100% of snaps on multiple occasions and never less than 86% of snaps. He's involved, y'all. So, great guy to look at if you can get your hands on Cade Otton. I think that basically does it for the tight ends too. Let's take a look at a couple other things here before we bail. Yeah, that Vikings defense is just like it's a thing to be feared out there in the world. Like, y'all need to pay attention. The Vikings defense is something. Shout out to you, Naj. I don't. Blasting Game is actually supposed to be back this week, but I'm not sure if he will be. They may wind up putting him on IR. We'll take a look. Oh, Deuce One just dropping a quick piece of info. Looks like Taysom Hill has a rib injury, so that's why he's out. Yeah. And with the Bears out in London, everybody's worried about the pitch, as they would call it. Everybody's worried about the pitch. So hopefully no.
Are we talking about defenses here? Because there's a particular situation you might want to monitor because they're dealing with a backup quarterback and we don't know what we're getting. So whoever New Orleans is playing right now.
So New Orleans is up against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This should be a very interesting situation, but I just finished saying I like what's going on in Tampa Bay. I think they're going to continue to trend up. There's nothing wrong with any angle in Tampa Bay with a quarterback issue in New Orleans. Even though they've been trending up lately and playing very good football, I just don't see them being able to win out without their car. So
Deuce is hooking you up again. He said the Vikes are on a bye this week.
Vikes are bye this week. In any event, their defense is crazy. Somebody might be dropping that. Thanks, Deuce. Somebody might be dropping that Vikings defense this week because they need to stream a defense.
I think Nod just gave you another nugget that's worth talking about because that pass rush is starting to get home with the Giants.
It is, isn't it? The secondary isn't terrible either. They've got a semi-decent sleeper, slowly, grow on you team. So keep your eyes peeled. But that Giants defense is sneaking up on folks. It really is. Gotta say it. But the Vikings is just too dominant. Another one to talk about is the Denver Broncos defense. And their quarterback ain't terrible either. He's just a rookie. He's got a little ways to go. And them receivers ain't great. You need some help there. But, hey, man.
You're struggling. If you need the Broncos defense, you're struggling.
I got to disagree, man. I think they're the number 2 defense in the league right now.
Patrick Surtain is probably inflating the analytics there. He got a couple of picks this week.
That is true too. That is true. This Falcons defense is doing quite well as well. Somehow I don't see the Bears on this particular list, but you guys know what it is. That Bears defense is not to be trifled with. I would love to say similar things about this New York Jets defense, except I just don't know what you do with them anymore moving forward. So, the leader of the defense just got walked out by security. Is what it is. But yeah. Giants smacked around Seattle on their own turf, says a notch. Yeah, bruh. It was bit of a situation, but again, them Seattle Seahawks too, by way of offense, not something to be trifled with. Jackson Smith and Jigma had a really good week too, and we didn't get the chance to even talk about that by any stretch of the imagination. But he had a really good week. Anyhow, I think we covered just about everything that we needed to touch on here. I think some of the sleeper guys that you guys should be looking at this week from a streaming perspective, just to go through one more quick again. Alex Pierce, definitely a guy to look at. Tank Bigsby, a guy to look at. Jalen Tolbert, a guy to look at. Ray McLeod, a guy to look at if you need to stream. You know, he'll get it done. Darius Slayton, another guy to look at. If you need a stream, he'll help you out. Roshan Johnson is a vulture. He will get you touchdowns, and that's a good thing. So he's available heavily out there in most leagues. That's I think that just about covers a SuperFlex this week, y'all. What do you think there, King of Pop?
I think we covered it pretty well. And don't forget, everybody, look out for the some extra sauce tomorrow with me, Trip, and Kedz. We'll get wild and loose like we normally do for the Super Nomaniacs, man. I'll probably put that show up tonight, sometime late or early tomorrow. Come up with something pretty fun to do, man, when we jump in there and give you Super Nomaniacs the extra content you deserve. So look out for that. Look out for that tomorrow. And also sometime this week, hopefully we'll get Ill Will in the building, and maybe I don't know. Don't quote me, but maybe Thursday or Friday or something. And Coach T pretty soon here too. So look forward to those shows coming up, you guys.
Oh, right on. Always love that. Always love it when Coach T's with us. Chopping up with Coach T is super fun. That guy's just so knowledgeable by way of football.
Sorry, man. I got to interrupt one more time. Just tugging at my heartstrings, man, because you guys in Florida.
Oh, man, yeah.
That are in that zone, man, my goodness. I'm not a churchy guy. I'm not one of those, all that praying hand stuff, man. I'm going to send you guys the best vibes that I can send you, the best vibrations possible. And if you're anywhere near that thing, Notch, if you can, if it's not too late, get north, bro. Get north. I know you're over there by Cape Canaveral, I believe. But, man, if you can get north, get north. Please. Anybody down in Florida, get north.
Yeah. I got a lot of family out there. Shout out to the Walters family out there. Shout out to the Kedros out there. Y'all, yeah, if you have the opportunity of getting out of the area, by all means do so. Definitely have some family in that region. Shout out to you, Naj. I know you're out there in that neck of the woods there. Be safe, be vigilant, do what you got to do. If you can get out of the region there, do what you can. It is what it is, y'all. Weather is what it is. And unfortunately, sometimes you got to just pick up and manage things the way you got to manage them. So, shout outs to all you guys surviving through it. It's a tough one. Mofugra, big love to you. Shout out to you. Bear down, batten down the hatches. Take care of yourself and the fam out there, bro. If you're dealing with that hurricane situation too. Man, who says my Twitch mod's down in Tampa too? He's boarding his house up. Oh man, yeah, that's what they do. They batten down the hatches, man. You got to board the house up. You might lose the roof. It's crazy. It's different situation over there. A little bit of a different life situation, and life affects us all, man. So prayers to you guys, blessings to you guys. Just make sure y'all are as safe as you can possibly be.
All I can tell you guys is, even if your car breaks down, get out on your damn feet and start running north if you need to. But get the hell out of that zone, man. Get out of there. They're calling this shit the storm of the century, and I believe in 15-foot surge. Nobody's living through that.
Yeah, I can't. I don't really pay attention to the weather much, mainly because it's generally just freezing cold snow here in Canada, and I'm gonna get mad regardless. That being said, be safe, y'all. Be careful out there. Take care. do what you got to do, but be safe. All right. And on that note, I think are you with me there, dude?
Yes, I am.
All right, dude. Take us home, brother. SuperFlex is out.